Hello once again, everyone, and apologies for the delay in this series. I had a lot going on, but we are finally returning to Angelo's lessons. This will be a relatively short video, as when it comes to getting more out of Lesson 3, there really isn't a ton extra to talk about. It kind of does what it says on the tin. It may seem a bit of a strange lesson at first, because it doesn't really alter all that much, but there is some depth to it. And helping me out today is Jason, who has not appeared on the channel before, I don't believe. So, first and foremost, let's go ahead and go through the lesson in its normal form. And slope as always, head, leg, down, flank. Then we're back to hanging and slope. So, what's happening here is that the defender is beginning with a cut to the head, I return with a cut to the head, then there's that double staying down leg shot that we talked about with lesson 2. The only thing that changes is that now, following his double shot to the legs, he shifts back into St. George, following my final head attack, and from there he's going to alter his target and fire a 6 cut at the underside of my arm, specifically at my ribs or my flank, and this cut can land in a couple different places, so go ahead and go in St. George for me, right? If I'm attacking at St. George, the biggest thing that we're exploiting currently is that I've just gotten him used to defending low and high, right? He doesn't need to lower his sword to defend against the cut coming from below because he has a shift. He doesn't need to worry about anything more specific when I'm targeting his head because St. George kind of covers that whole upper opening, right? Even if I were to throw a 1 cut, it will still defend him. The weakness in St. George is the outside of the arm here, and that's what we're specifically learning from this lesson. So when I target this, so I've just, prompted him to go into St. George, I want to keep my hand up relatively high and instead just turn. So now I'm horizontal, my blade is going at 9 o'clock. I'm going to open my chest up with my lunge to take those ribs, right? Now a big thing about this, you can relax. A big thing about this is make sure that you are not stopping your cut. If this shoulder is too far forward, my cut's, all of its power is kind of happening over there. What I want to focus on is opening my torso up and letting that cut come through. Now, with a blunt sword, of course, what's going to happen is I'm going to connect and it'll drag across. With a sharp, it may bite in a little deeper, but this is usually a shot to the ribs, or I could lower it and instead take more to the side, in which case this is one of those cuts that causes his guts to hit the floor. Very good for family entertainment. But the more important part about this is going to be the parry itself. So what's going to happen if I'm in St. George and he starts delivering that cut down below, is that if I try to bring my guard down to defend myself, I'm never going to get there in time. Now, there will be a situation later where we will use an outside guard to defend the outside of our arm, but that's not what he's going for. He's going for my ribs, which means if I try to pull that off, maybe I catch it, but I'm not in a very good position to fight back against him, and really he's just going to cut around on my head. So instead, what I need to learn to do, and what you're learning from this lesson, is that as that cut is coming down, it's directing your point down and across. So here's that again more slowly. Boom. And as I open with my point, I'll face the camera here, I naturally open my arm out. Now sometimes your guard will be a little more forward or a little more to your side. It just kind of depends upon his lunge distance and what you ended up with over the course of your fight. But the most important thing for making this, at first, very odd guard work for you is just that. Move the tip across. Because if you try to move your hand, which is what your monkey brain is going to be screaming at you to do, you'll never get there in time. So here's it one more time, slowly with emphasis. Head, leg, block, head. Then just back to St. George, and back to slope. And that's pretty much the lesson. There's nothing really much more complicated than that, so we'll switch sides and show it one more time. So, not a terribly long video, but some important things to think about as when the lessons get more complicated. I will be referencing back to this one and the manner in which we defended ourselves in St. George, because St. George is a very good guard, as is using the slip. They're kind of the first things you learn. But learning how to make these more complicated postures, which are usually the best one in those situations, requires you to be thinking in this manner of move the tip, not move your basket. But either way, thank you very much, Jason, and we'll go over some other techniques another time.